Good day, learners! Welcome to Arts 9, Module 3 about the famous Filipino playwrights. Today's objectives are 1. Identify famous Filipino playwrights. 2. Show the influences of Western classical plays or opera on the Philippine theatrical performance in terms of form and content story. Let's start this lesson with the pretest. In this activity, you have to identify the correct answer for each statement or questions. You have 5 seconds to think of the correct answers. Let's start. 1. He is the father of the Tagalog zarzuela. 2. A Filipino composer dubbed as the father of theater design in the Philippines. 3. A story that underscores the injustice of Spanish rule even as it dances around cruel fate of the young lovers. 4. Many of his theater productions were classics of Western drama but in terms of a Filipino and Asian sensibility. 5. He is the man behind the famous Florante at Laura. Now, let's see the answers. Number 1. Severino Reyes. 2. Salvador F. Bernal. 3. Walang Sugat. 4. Ricardo Abad. 5. Francisco Balagtas. Now, let's have a review on our previous lesson. For your recap activity, can you guess what theater play or opera title is shown in the picture? Write your answer inside the box. You have 5 seconds to think of the correct answer. Now, let's check if your answers are correct. 1. Oedipus Rex. 2. Romeo and Juliet. 3. Carmen. Now, let's move on and start our discussion about the famous Filipino playwrights and directors. First, we have here Francisco Balagtas de la Cruz. He was born on April 2, 1788 in Panginay, Bigaa, Bulacan and died on February 20, 1862 of pneumonia. He was also known as Francisco Baltasar. His best-known work is The Florante at Laura. Balagtas learned to write poetry from Jose de la Cruz, who sang Sisio, one of the most famous poets of Tondo. It was de la Cruz himself who personally challenged Balagtas to improve his writing. In 1835, Balagtas moved to Pandacan where he met Maria Asuncion Rivera, who served as the muse for his future works. She is referenced in Florante at Laura as Celia and Myrrh. Balagtas' affections for Myrrh were challenged by the influential Mariano Capule. Capule won the battle when he used his wealth to get Balagtas imprisoned under the accusation that Balagtas ordered the servant girl's head to be shaved. It was in prison that he wrote Florante at Laura, so that the events of the poem were meant to parallel his own situation. Balagtas published Florante at Laura upon his release in 1838. He moved to Balanga Bataan in 1840, where he served as the assistant to the Justice of Peace and later in 1856 as Major Lieutenant. He died on February 20, 1862 at the age of 73. On his deathbed, he asked a favor that none of his children become a poet like him who had suffered under his gift. He even told them that it would be better to cut their hands off than let them be writers. Balagtas is so greatly revered in the Philippines that the term for Filipino debate in extemporaneous verse is named after him, Balagtasan, and one of the greatest literary awards in the Philippines is also named after him. Next is Severino R. Reyes. He is a playwright and is considered as the father of the Tagalog zarzuela. He is the son of Rufino Reyes and Andrea Rivera. Reyes was born in Santa Cruz, Manila on February 11, 1861. He studied at San Juan de Letran College and later at the University of Santo Tomas, where he studied philosophy. A Filipino writer, dramatist, and playwright, Reyes was highly acclaimed as one of the giants of Tagalog literature. In 1902, Reyes founded and directed the Gran Compañía de Zarzuela Tagala. On June 14, 1902, the company staged his play Walang Sugat or No Wounds, a drama set against the historical events in Bulacan during the Philippine Revolution. In 1923, Reyes co-founded the Liwayway, a Tagalog literary weekly which published a series of fairy tale titled Mga Kwento ni Lola Basyang, written by Reyes. The storyteller, Lola Basyang, was based by the author on a neighbor named Gervasia de Guzman. Severino Reyes died on September 15, 1942, when the Philippines was under the Japanese regime. Severino Reyes' masterpiece, Walang Sugat, broadly underscores the injustice of Spanish rule even as it dances around the cruel fate of young lovers Tenyong and Julia with humor and song. Set in the final leg of the Philippine Revolution, Tenyong is forced to leave behind his childhood sweetheart Julia to join the Katipunan. Meanwhile, Julia's mother pressures her into marrying the wealthy Miguel instead. With no word from Tenyong as the battle prolongs, Julia gives in, but her wedding was interrupted by the fatally wounded Tenyong. The production was directed by Ricardo Abad, under the musical direction of Josefino Toledo. John Villarreal handled lights design while Dexter Santos choreographed. Set and costumes were designed by the national artist Salvador Bernal. Now let's get to know Dr. Ricardo G. Abad. He is a director. He was born in Manila on August 10, 1946, of parents from Cavite and Camiguin. He graduated at the Ateneo de Manila, after which he obtained a Fulbright grant to finish a doctorate in sociology at Fordham University in New York. A full-time faculty at Department of Sociology and Anthropology, artistic director, Tanghalang Ateneo, Metrobank Network Outstanding Teachers Pathways, Ateneo de Manila University Role Players, Theater for Life Social Weather Stations. He has been involved as actor and director in over 120 productions while at the same time doing sociological works as teacher, researcher, and editor. He has also directed and acted for professional companies like Teatro Pilipino and Tanghalang Pilipino of the Cultural Center of the Philippines and the Metropolitan Theater. Many of his theater productions were classics of Western drama, but in terms of a Filipino and Asian sensibility, like Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Now let's have Salvador F. Bernal. He's considered as the father of theater design in the Philippines. He was born in 1845 to a family that ran a terno shop. He was the first to develop theater design as a profession and elevate it to an art form. He studied at the Ateneo de Manila and at Northwestern University, Evanston, Illinois, USA, practiced and handled courses in the art and craft of theater design. Taught briefly at Ateneo de Manila and the University of the Philippines. He had designed more than 250 productions in ballet, theater, and film. Now that we're done with our discussion, let's have an activity. Watch and learn. Watch the play Walang Sugat by Severino Reyes and Florante at Laura of Francisco Balagtas through the link shown below. After watching, compare and differentiate their works to Western classical theater. You can watch and access the video of Walang Sugat and Florante and Laura on these links. For your wrap-up activity, complete the sentences below by filling them up with the missing words or phrases. A. Francisco Balagtas is the author of blank. He learned his poetry from Hussein blank of blank. His muse of his work is blank. B. Severino Reyes is a Filipino blank, blank, and blank. He was an acclaimed Tagalog blank in literature. One of his famous play is blank. Now, let's ponder on these following questions. 1. What is the importance of Philippines theater? Number 2. How can you show your appreciation to the works of the Filipino playwrights? Before we end this lesson, let's answer the post test. Choose the letter with the correct answer. Number 1. He is the man behind the famous Florante at Laura. A. Severino Reyes. B. Francisco Balagtas. C. Ricardo Abad. D. Salvador Bernal. The correct answer is B. Francisco Balagtas. 2. He is the father of the Tagalog zarzuela. A. Severino Reyes. B. Francisco Balagtas. C. Ricardo Abad. D. Salvador Bernal. The correct answer is A. Severino Reyes. 3. A story that underscores the injustice of Spanish rule even as it dances around cruel fate of the young lovers. A. Walang Sugat. B. Florante at Laura. C. Romeo and Juliet. D. Tenyong. The correct answer is A. Walang Sugat. 4. A Filipino composer dubbed as the father of theater design in the Philippines. A. Severino Reyes. B. Francisco Balagtas. C. Ricardo Abad. D. Salvador Bernal. The correct answer is D. Salvador Bernal. 5. Many of his theater productions were classics of Western drama but in terms of a Filipino and Asian sensibility. A. Severino Reyes. B. Francisco Balagtas. C. Ricardo Abad. D. Salvador Bernal. The correct answer is C. Ricardo Abad. So that's it for today's lesson. I hope you learned a lot. Thank you for listening. Bye!